introduction. Thank you all for being here and for the interest in hearing our study case in the Costanera. We are very excited because we are the first group of the City Science Labs to present in 2024. So thank you. Hi, everyone. I want to share my screen here, and I want to tell you that I'm with my team. Here with me is Helen, Diego, Constanza, and Germán. And I would like to tell you about our CityScope project. As you know, we have been discussing the Costanera case several times during the last year. And the last time we presented the workshop with the City Science Group team in Concepción. And then at the summit in October, in the lightning talks, I addressed the challenges of this historical neighborhood and what we expect for this neighborhood in the future. So in this case, we want to focus on the interactive platform for modeling the impacts of urban projects in the Costanera. So on this presentation, I would like to briefly contextualize what we have been researching over the last year. Some of you already know this is one of the city's oldest settlements and located on the north side of the Biobío River. You can see this in the picture. And it's composed by 3 neighborhoods. I want to name the neighborhood because it's important for us. Pedro del Río, Pedro de Valdivia, y Aurora de Chile. And all of them have very similar socioeconomic and historical characteristics. Much of this area comprises informal housing, and in a strategic location for the city. In this photo, we can see the neighborhood with formal housing. This is the area of Pedro del Río. And from the perspective of urban planning, it has always been decided to bring the city closer to the river. So much effort and money has been invested to trying to do this without much success, if I can say. So here we are dealing with a complex territory for the city and its communities, for the Costanera community. And well, about the participatory process with the community, during the year, this process with the public, especially with the communities, were very relevant. And this way we could understand their problems, their challenges, and the historical demands for solving historical problems of housing, accessibility, and security problems. So it was also central to know how they imagine the neighborhood in the future and what aspects we should consider to solve these problems. This is a picture with the community of Pedro de Valdivia. As we can see, these are the 4 main dimensions of concern of the inhabitants of the Costanera that have recurrently emerged from the participatory processes. We have these 4 issues. First, the lack of public space for recreation. So this is one of the top dimensions that the people mentioned in all the workshops. And then the deficient pedestrian infrastructure, and for example, the train line as a barrier to connectivity with the rest of the city. Then we have problems with housing. You know that we have a lot of informal housing here, and an important deficit in quantity and quality of housing. And then security, waste sites that generate microdams and crimes. This is some pictures of the 3 neighborhoods, the county towns, infrastructure for the connectivity, the bridge, the theater, and some empty space with this problem of public space. So during these workshops, we found several public plans and projects under study in this neighborhood. And in this way, we realized that not much was known about these initiatives that would generate important change in the neighborhood in the future. So we think that if we want to imagine the future of the Costanera, we should consider these various infrastructure and equipment projects and their impact on the people's quality of life. So we asked the big questions. What impact will future projects planned for the Costanera have in this neighborhood? And here we select a group of 75 public projects that will be implemented in the next 15 years. These public projects are related with the improvement of green areas, equipment related with culture, public space, the improvement of sport facilities such as football fields. In residential, we review some projects of formalization of informal housing, the increase of high-rise housing, public buildings, transport infrastructure for connectivity inside of the neighborhood and outside and with the rest of the city, and some projects of preservation of natural ecosystems. So we asked the second questions: what effects will they have on the neighborhood sustainability and the community's quality of life? And to try to solve and think in this question, we select 4 major indicators related with diversity. Diversity of land uses, thinking that in the future for us will be great if we have mixed uses not only housing uses in this neighborhood, and then density of population and edification, proximity by walking to different amenities and different equipments and important essential services such as education and health. And then urban design was our fourth dimension related with bike lane connection and the implementation of bike lines and sidewalks. So we have 3 important scenarios here that we want to study. The today's situation, how the neighborhoods behave today without any project, how is today, and the future scenario, what will the neighborhood look like in the future with all these 75 projects implemented, public projects. And then we think in this interactive scenario and with this question, well, what will the neighborhood look like in the future when a group of selected projects of the 75 projects is implemented? So we set up to address all these questions in this first version of the CityScope of the Costanera. And here is Diego to talk a little bit about this tool, this platform that we adapt from the original version. So Diego, if you can tell us more about this.
Hi everyone, I'm Diego. I'm the data scientist here in Biobío Lab, and I'm going to tell everyone about the tool that we built. Next slide, please. As Marcela said before, we use this kind of plates like a bunch of projects. So we don't use like minimal changes in the maps. We take like a polygon, and that polygon, we change everything in that to simulate the difference between now and the projects that will be implemented in the future. And about the 4 dimensions, we generate these heat maps for diversity, for density, and also for proximity. And we display these maps over our table to show different changes. Next slide, please. Next one. And that part, we saw the real map, and we identified 7 areas to put our plates. And in that plates, we assign the different projects that Marcela says before. And if we change, for example, the plate number 3, the only change that will be reflected in the map is the associated with that plate. For example, there is a museum or a park there, that will change indicators associated with that kind of changes, not the whole map. And if we change all the plates, we will be in the future all the projects implemented already. And next one, please. And that is our architecture. We use a different kind of digital architecture based on the because we split it of the whole process in different parts. For example, the models, the first model calculate the maps or the indicators, and then using an error script, we generate the maps for the different combination to show in the table. And the final point, it's in using OpenCV. We made some arrangements of the image, for example, rotate it or escalate to show in the table. And then we store all of that in a Postgres database. And using the principal server using Django, we use two inputs. First, from the cameras to show the state of the map. For example, if we already have the plate 1, 2, 3 in the future, and the 4, 5, 6, and so on in the actual, that will call the exact map for that combination. And using an app and a web application, we can change what indicator we want to see in the map. So we can control it using our phones, or for example, a tablet or a different, for example, a laptop. And we implement also a micro server of MQTT, and that sync the projectors because the size of our table. We can't use just one projector, so we have to implement this synchronization of two different projectors to fill the complete table for the project. And next one, please. Here is our implementation. The first picture is when we made a Lego party with kids from the school here in Chile. And that is and the other pictures, we are building all the things with the team. That is our first iteration or the second iteration of our table, because the first one was in a good table, and this is the table that is implemented already in the lab. Next one, please. And here's some results. For example, here the kids, they are building the city, the downtown. And here is a picture of them with our table V1 with the wood with the wood structure. And the last part is the picture from the map that's with the Lego city implemented and with the projection of diversity of land uses. That is our favorite because it's look really, really nice.
Thank you, Diego. Now, I would like to share with you the experience of the implementation of the city scopes with the stakeholders, with the cities, with the citizens. And here we have very interesting findings on the potential of the city scope in the meetings with the communities. We have, since we launched this platform on December 14, we had many instances of participation. We had 20 visits with 128 participants from the different area of the society. One of them was the civil society, mainly the neighbors, the communities, the leaders from the communities, the schools, the academy with the universities, the local universities, academics, research groups, and students. They were very interested in the potentials of the city scopes. Also, we have the public sector. Here, we integrate the 40% of the people, of the visitants in our lab. From the governor, regional governor, which is the most important authority of the Biobío region, to other areas of municipalities, local governments, representation of the ministries. So this was an important group of interest, and the private sector with the CCHC, the Chilean Chamber of Construction, the committees of these institutions, architecture, infrastructure, people from the real estate companies. So we have a very large area of group of interest in the visiting of the platform. About the challenges and opportunities detected by the citizens, in general terms, all groups said that the most critical challenges in linking the tool and is linking the tool and the right analysis to the decision making in urban projects. Here, governance is something that has been talked about a lot, and however, we detected a lot of opportunities related with these groups. For example, from the civil society, was very important for them to learn about the projects, to use the CityScopes as a citizen participation platform and discuss the impacts of the projects with the authorities and the other groups of interest. From the academy, they talk a lot about the work with the students on academic exercises to integrate projects from the academy, from the public sector, to bring together different actors to construct a more equitable and sustainable city. And from the perspective of the digital government, as a digital tool was very interesting for them. And from the private sector, incorporate private projects of public interest to evaluate their effects. So these are the main opportunities of these visits. In this picture, we can see the neighbors of the Costanera in this picture. We receive people from the press, researchers, academics, the governor in the discussion with the public projects, groups from the local government in other regions outside of Biobío, and CCHC architecture, different architecture committees and infrastructure and real estate, as I said before. Okay, and now I would like to talk about the insights and the conclusions of this process. What are the findings that we think are very interesting to continue the research and reviewing the results of urban indicators. So what have we found in Costanera for the future scenario? In density, we will have with all these together these 75 public projects in the future, we found an increase in population density by 28%. Most residents will continue to live in the neighborhoods, but with increased high-rise buildings, and others will have to relocate to other areas of the city. And much of these dense areas will be concentrated near the train line. So we think that looking at appropriate measures to reduce safety concerns would be essential. And diversity, we detect an increase in the diversity of land uses by 24%. However, some neighborhoods will maintain a predominance of residential use without significant change in the mix of use, especially in the case of Pedro del Río. And in proximity, we found that the travel times decreased by 8%, which is good. And one of the right of this, from these 4 major indicators, we had a lot of indicators. I should probably show this, but the proximity to parks and culture offers better results. But however, travel times remain high in Costanera in the accessibility to social services such as education and health. And then in urban design, we found that the provision of bike lanes increased by 27%, together with the improvement of pedestrian sidewalk. However, there are still challenges associated with the walkability of the neighborhood, where it is necessary to promote solutions to increase safety and especially the universal accessibility and strategic points. And then we are working in this idea of to try to build a portfolio of proposed projects. This is a kind of bank of projects with initiatives with and for the community. The idea here is that from the lab we can articulate with other sectors that can finance low-cost projects in the different dimensions. Short and medium-term initiatives. So we need to work here with the communities, with the leader of the communities, neighborhood councils, neighborhood functional organization, in order to try to think projects with positive influence in the neighborhood with high social and urban value. For this, this is some of the dimensions that we are discussing from, for example, of these low-cost projects. We have the mobility, smart bus stops, gender-focused stops bus, housing, thermal comfort workshops, public space recovery, public equipment, recovery and preservation of the culture, the industrial memorial of the neighborhood, and community garden, clean points, and security, which is a very important dimension for the neighborhood. Smart light, smart alarms, and other kind of solutions of short-term solutions. And together with these short and medium-term initiatives, we are working and think these long-term initiatives such as structural changes that will produce structural changes in the neighborhood. This is related to the research with the MIT team. We have explored promoting a diverse neighborhood and influence and dimensions such as housing characteristics, for example. And here we can think about how we want the neighborhood to be in the future, how we can promote local economies and the use of public space and achieve greater urban vibrancy, which is a thing that we have discussed from the beginning. And to this, we have explored proposals for future projects in the Costanera that will generate essential changes. And for this, we have invited university architecture workshops to help us design a master plan for mobility and public space. We can see in some slides some projects. And for example, this is a project to connect the Biobío river with the center of Concepción. That will help to increase the urban vibrancy in all the sector of Bicentenarial Park. Some projects of in the Cerro Chepe, which is an important mountain and green space for the communities, and this is in the public plans. This was like an idea of project. So we think that here we can have a little bit more impact to try to rethink this space. And other equipment such as soccer fields and, for example, La Frontera in one of the neighborhoods. In this neighborhood, the sports centers, the football fields are very important for the vitality of the neighbors. So we think that these are strategic projects and it's an important area to address. So we know that influencing this requires a lot of effort and political will. So this is one of our challenges that we need to face in the future if we want to reimagine the thing that we are thinking and project the Costanera for the future. And Diego, you want to share other projects in the development with our students?
I'm going to summary the whole work that our intern students have been working the last time. We are working with a lot of students with different universities here from here. For example, the first one, Paula, she helped us with all of things, with all of design things. And the other guys, Fabian and Francisco, they are working as a developers. They helped me with implementing new features on fixing the bugs in the table. So they are working really hard on that. Next one, please. And also, Roberto is working in a VR app to give us a online tour to the lab. For example, he already digitalized the whole building and for example the table and the televisions, all of things. Alejandro and Rocio are working in eso es. Alejandro and Rocio are working in a augmented reality application to deploy to display the 3D map on the hands on your hands with the different indicators. So they are working on that. And Martin and Eric are working recently in a PostGIS database to structure our data in the lab. And also we are working with another team in the next slide, and they are working in a video game and Roblox video game to improve the participation of the children's, I think, or maybe young people. So they are working on this with this game with different missions around the city, so the people can participate using this platform. And in the next slide, there's the whole team. They are working remote because they are from a university in another region, but they still want to work with us. So we're really happy with this. Next one. And that is our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Diego. And we know that we are on time. We only have 20-30 minutes. So we are very happy to receive your feedback, your comments, to start the discussion with the group. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Marcela. Wonderful. Thank you, Diego, for presenting. I feel like you shared so much with us in such a short period of time. So, I mean, from the community that you're working with, which I know is really important and really complex, you've done so many like stakeholder engagement processes already. It was also really helpful to see those future initiatives too, even though you haven't worked through completely what they'll be yet. Let's pass to the network for questions. So I like it. It's best for us, I think, if folks just open their mic and ask a question, just go for it. If for some reason you can't use your mic, you can also text it in the chat and I can ask or answer it for you. So let's open for question. This can also be a time, I think, for conversation for all of us as we learn from one another. So thanks again, Chile team.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me just break the ice. I think like when you have like this amount of people in Zoom, somebody needs to break the ice. So and Kent is not here to say, hey, Luis, what do you think? So I just volunteer. So Marcela and the entire team in BioBío, congratulations. I think this is outstanding. And usually when you have a team like this and you have this rapid growth, you usually have growth pains, let's say, no, like because you have scaled the team in a very short time. A few months ago, you were like, wow, I am alone here, and then now you have this amazing team, amazing work, and you have a CityScope table. So congratulations about that. And I think the most remarkable thing is that also you have good insights. You are still working with the community and the stakeholders. So I think that's something that is a fantastic example for the network to see like how can you keep everything on track, which is kind of, and on top of many other let's say politics and difficult navigation that everybody has like in a daily basis. I think, I mean, we have been also following the news. I mean, like so every country has kind of the local challenges, but then what you have done is like, okay, we navigate this and then we keep working with the community and building a system and keeping the stakeholders together. So I think that's fantastic. So, but I have a lot of questions for you. Like, I think the first question is, in all this process, what has been the most challenging part of the process for you? Because some people will be like, oh, the technical side, or the working with the community, or working with the stakeholders, or blah, I don't know, like you have a lot over there. The second, or building the team, or I think because you have the entire process there, so you can. And the second question is a little bit related to Maggie's. She just highlight that, but I am also very interested on the new directions that you have. We were talking to like last week about new directions for the CityScope. Like, okay, where are we going? Are we going to change the scale? For sure we will keep the Costanera there, but we will move maybe in the regional scale. But in parallel, I also see like the augmented reality, the virtual reality, and that stuff is also pretty cool. So I don't know if you can, explain a little bit better how do you see the new directions, and also if you have like new connections with companies, or I don't know. That's a lot of questions, but I have a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. I will start if someone of my team want to complement, please do it. About your first question, related with the most talented part of all this, since we began last year, I think that definitely was the part of the interaction with the community. I don't know if my team is agree with me, but that was the hardest part because in a project like when you talk about some technical issues, when the community like they always ask what is the purpose, what is the goal of what you are doing, and some of the people, and the most of the people who lives in Costanera has very historical demands, very structural problems since decades. So they want to, they are thinking in their short-term solutions. They're thinking in solving problems in housing, especially in housing and security and the connection with the rest of the city. So to deal with this, when they want something very in a short term, and you are thinking in the future, you are thinking in how to imagine the future, how do you address the public projects which has 15, 20 years to be implemented is very hard. But even with this, finally, we think that the work with them was essential. They were very what we gathered from these meetings was essential for us to try to think in other projects. For example, this bank of projects, these short-term initiatives to be complemented with the participation of other sectors. So I think that was the challenging part. And so for that reason, our next directions, that's your second question. Next direction, I think we don't want to leave the Costanera like, okay, we address the Costanera, we create a CityScope to evaluate this problem, this future. We think that we need to keep with the Costanera and keep trying to think in how can we change things and what can we do to try to convince the decision makers to do things differently. So that is our purpose, and we are also exploring the work with the students, as Diego mentioned. We are trying to integrate different kind of tools, different kind of visions. We have a lot of engineers, a lot of students from graphic designers. So they are working with us to try to use these technologies and these tools to work and to bring closer the participation exercise with the people, to help us with to talk with kids, to work with young people and with other sector leaders of the community. So this is important for us in the process of citizen participation. At least that is our view of the future of the project of the Costanera CityScope.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcela. Myra, we'll pass to you. If you could just quickly say to who you are and where you're from.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Myra Gamboa, Director of the City Science Lab of Guadalajara. Well, thank you for the talk, Marcela, and congratulations. I'm very impressed with your work. This, yeah, we know the challenge of implementing a CityScope, and you have been doing this in a very short period of time. And also because you have covered a lot of projects, and that's one of my questions that I wanted to ask you, because in our CityScope, I think we were covering, well, one integrated project, but with different areas inside this whole cultural center. But in this case, you are covering like the entire front line of the city, the area of the bayfront. I don't know. That's something I would like you to clarify. So what's the size of the scope? How many acres or hectares are you covering in these 75 projects? Because yeah, I remember that Luis was telling us, oh no, this is too much to explore in a CityScope, like you have to scale down and things like that. And for me, this is going beyond. So
Yeah.
it's huge. And I'm curious about if you have tested each single project with the community. I imagine that these sessions with the communities were focused in specific projects, or you were asking for the entire, you know, solutions or projects that you were, that you are projecting for this area, no? Because that's a lot of work. And I'm curious also about what is the response from the private sector? If you have found in these workshops and in these public participation sessions with them, some interest from the private sector that they could be more involved with you in implementing the solutions in the short or midterm period. So that will be the two questions, but yeah, very impressed and very happy that you have achieved these steps of implementing the CityScope. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Mayra. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for your comments. About your first questions related with the surface and the scale of the Costanera, this is a neighborhood that comprises 3 neighborhoods with a population of 16,000 people. And Helen, if you are there, maybe you can help me with the surface, the dimension of the surface. You can write, or someone of the team. But this is like a neighborhood scale. So I will wait for the answer of Helen to be more precise about the answer. But about the work, how we address the work with the community, we talk with them from the beginning, and the idea was to try to identify the problems. First, the main challenges they were facing in the territory. They are people that have been asking a lot about the same, so that was the difficult part. But they were very, it was very great to receive from them this information. We have some open workshops. They like to talk a lot, so they told us about all these dimensions of concern. And then in one of the workshops with the MIT members, we talk about how they reimagine the future of the Costanera. And then we try to be more precise in the next workshops and meetings, and identify some critical points in the neighborhoods where they have problems, for example, in the public space, critical points of security, critical points of crime, where the dynamics of, for example, daily mobility. We know that there's a lot of information that we like to have. The data topic is important for this. You know about this, but we gathering a lot from the community. That was the importance of work with them. And about the private sector, that was interesting because we like talk about the CityScope as a tool for the public projects, but with the private sector, the feedback was very interesting because, of course, they try to see the impacts or the effects of projects from the perspective, from the economic perspective. But some of them, for example, they were interested in the capital gains or plusvalías. How the externalities of the projects and how can or the potential of the tool to incorporate private projects. And in this case, we incorporate 4 private projects, 4 buildings with because this was information, critical information to calculate the density. But we focus on the public projects, so they have other perspective, other view of the problem, and this is an incredible opportunity to share with them some ideas and some conceptions of the how should be the neighborhoods, the sustainability, how can we start to address ideas of proximity, ideas of to try to find an equilibrium in the density, try to find some diversity of uses, and I think that is, we would love to have more meetings with them to try to know more and about their interests, but I think that's the main findings. And well, I owe you the information about the surface of the Costanera, but I will share with you this information. Thank you, Mayra.
Yeah, thank you, Marcela.
I see, and yeah, it looks like Helen's writing in the chat. It's 18 hectares approximately. And I see a hand from Marcus. Marcus, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question and a comment. Thank you very much for the presentation. We've been talking a little bit about kind of what would the metrics of success be for the outcome, you know, like when during these community engagements, how do you convey success, or how do you convey you know, better urban performance, right? And I kind of feel like there's a lot of development that's happened with the graphics, the VR system, a lot of the representation, but now this next level of saying, how do we get buy-in on one, looking at the proposals for the sites and using those with the you know, to analyze what success would be, or how they would impact the community vis-a-vis these success metrics. And I think what's really great is that you're working with students, and I think they have more capability of being flexible around you know, blue sky proposals, right? Like, I mean, they're not as committed to you know, like formal standardized solutions. And I would say that would be a really great place to start if you can engage them on the analytical side as well, so that it's not just a design, but it's a design with a, you know, kind of analysis that goes with it that would highlight some of the virtues or not. Because I think that's a way to get a lot of sensitivity towards a lot of these issues. So it's more of a comment, less of a question, but it's super exciting to engage with the university.
Yeah, great. Yeah, agree, because they were a great job by designing to a master plan with some specific projects and with all the free that they can have from the academic area. And I think it's important for us to have this, what you say, like the successful metrics, or what are we considering as desired metrics. And we need to think of and start to gathering this, because it will be important for us to try to convince people. Yeah.
So
that's the next step.
building on,
Yeah.
so building on top of that, because I think that's a good experience for the network. So I think the relationship that Marcela has built with the university is fantastic. And the thing is, like, you need to find the the sweet spot where the professors, they are happy to keep teaching and they have to give the material that the student needs to learn, and the collaboration with the project. So that was one of the navigations that Marcela did. The students, they have done an analysis of the area, but it's more like the typical architectural analysis. So I think that's and we don't show it, but I mean, it's okay. It's a nice kind of typical analysis, Kevin Lynch kind of approach. But then the thing is that what we were thinking also is, what if we use the CityScope now to see the impact of that projects in the table? So I think that's going to be the next step. Again, this is a process that Marcela is kind of building with the university little by little. We are just learning how to do that because each university is different. But I think it is pretty cool. And let's see where it goes. And this could be like a super amazing source of new ideas and fresh ideas, because also they are students. So nobody goes over there and gonna, hey, this is crazy. So the other thing that it was challenging for Marcela, well, for all of us to navigate, was the relationship with the students with the community, because at the beginning they were gonna work together, but again, like I say, politics gets involved, and then it was like, no, it's better not to expose the students to the community, because maybe the community is too much. They are a little bit aggressive, and they didn't want to have, the university wants to protect the students too much, I think, because I think the community is not that aggressive at all, and it could be fantastic. But it was like the perception of the professors trying to protect the students. I think that's something that we will little by little also manage to soft a little bit and connect the students with the real client, that is the community.
Yeah. Thank you, Luis. Yeah, one of the things that we have worked a lot in the team, Diego, Constanza, Helen, is the connection with the students, with universities, because as you know, we are not part of a university. We are not a City Science Lab from that belongs to a university. We are a public-private program. So for us, it's not easy to get the students, to get the research groups and invite them to join us in a research. So for this, I think it has been incredible. The amount of people, the students that have been interested in the students that Diego shared with you, are very excited to work here, and we are trying to keep them and trying to make more connections with other universities, and we are very excited about the interest of the project with all the society. Thank you, Luis.
Awesome. Okay, let's pass to Jarmo. And Jarmo, if you want to say again who you are and where you're from.
Okay, thank you. Great work, Marcela. I'm really impressed. I'm kind of outsider in a way that I don't know the background of your project so much. But I'm interested about the fact that you mentioned 75 public projects. For me, that means 75 communities, different stakeholders. It's not any just one single community that can comment on this. So how can you kind of diversify these communities? How can you identify these different stakeholders that matters to each of these projects or communities? And also including private enterprises, private projects there. I mean, I love the project, but I'm just curious, how do you somehow unify the different communities?
Yeah. Here we in Chile, thank you for your question, Guillermo. Here in Chile, the projects are in a system called Sistema Nacional de Inversiones, like an inversion structure. And some of the projects are projects that are built together with the community, but the most of them are not building together with the community. So happens that some people who came to know the impact of these projects, they were not aware of some of the, for example, housing projects. They were like, that will be located in the neighborhood. So that was a surprise for us, because these are like projects that have been designed since 10 years ago or long-term projects. So that was an interesting part that we find out. And well, for us, I think that the work we do here was integrate different dimensions that usually people don't see together. For example, from the projects from the housing from one ministry, for example, housing ministry, with projects with of the security, with the infrastructure, Ministry of Public Works, and others with I don't know, the train company. So these 75 projects are compiled in 3 and 4 important ministries, but not always have been citizen participation. So that's the difficulty, because we are dealing with projects that are not very good received from the community. Some of them are desired. For example, people want their houses, but some of them are, well, I don't want a big infrastructure here. I want to the railway line to be under a subway, for example. And there's very difficult for us work with projects of other institutions, but that's what that was a challenge for us. And so these, as I said, these projects are very disconnected from the people.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if I answer your question. But
yeah. Oh, thank you, because I think that is one of the main opportunities of CityScope, to really connect these communities together.
Yeah.
But isolated in most of the ways, in many ways, from each other. I think that might be a very relevant outcome, to think about this integration, how to connect them together. And that is my passion in any way.
Great, Guillermo. Yeah, that's what just the thing that we think is one of the potentials to integrate dimensions that usually are seen in separate ways, to incorporate projects in different states of advance. For example, some of them are projects in the conceptual phase, like the idea of projects. On some of them are projects which are with a design, and the possibilities of think in different, for example, indicators. And that was an interesting finding, that some people said, okay, I love what I see, but I would like to integrate other dimensions, for example, traffic, for example, how it will impact this project in the traffic, or in the crimes, or in other areas that we don't consider because we don't have data. But is important to consider all this dimension of interest of the stakeholders.
Awesome. Yeah. We're right up against the hour too. So thank you so much to Marcela. Thank you to the team at Concepcion. We're so grateful for your presentation, for sharing your work and your research with us. We recorded today, so if folks from your lab missed this, let me know and we can share that with you. And then we are back next month. So February 27th, right at the end of February, the City Science Lab at Shanghai is going to do the same thing. So presentation on their work, their research, where they are, and then we want to open it up again to you all for conversation and for questions. So I'll email out that information soon, but good to see you all. And also we shared Marcela's contact information in that email, and also their website is linked here too. So if there's more questions, feel free to definitely reach out to that team.
Thank you, Mari. I can say something.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, here is Germán, our journalist. And we were thinking that would be great if some of you who want to stay a little bit, some minutes, and to say hi, send us some greetings to our lab, to our social media, would be great. For some of you of different labs, or some of the directors, I don't know, you are invited to stay.
Great, that's cool. Okay, so stay on this call.
So we can, yeah.
And we'll grab some thoughts from you. Other folks that have to jump off, go ahead and jump off. Yeah, and nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.